down. Better get a little water.
Good. Took a big bite of my sandwich. Would you grab me a water?
New neighbor?
Here I am, a new neighbor. Won't you be my,
Neighbor.
there you go.
That'd be good.
Wasn't he a sniper? Is that true? Mr. Rogers was a sniper. Is that true?
Joe.
That's the rumor.
Joe, don't start.
It was a myth. I checked. Mr. Rogers was not a sniper.
Got it.
Think we're ready to get going. It is the finance and it's Tuesday, January 14, and we're starting at 11:30, only about an hour behind schedule, but good work's getting done today. I'd like to open the floor to public comment and invite you to come forward. Not seeing anyone for public comment. Well, all right.
I'll start the ball rolling here. My name is Bruce Greenlee. I live in Park Township. Thank you for letting me speak this morning. I'm thankful that the board rules that were approved still allow 3 minutes for public comment, and that policy is not going the way of the dodo. I have concern for the person that's been appointed chairman of the finance committee, and I'll give you some reasons for that. My feeling though is the chairman, as anybody in leadership, but especially in the finance committee, that person needs to have a history of being fiscally responsible and accountable, and not to be emotional and hasty. Along with that, emotional and hasty and a few other things, let me bring up a little past history. I don't have personal experience, but just observation, attending many Ottawa County Board of Commissioner meetings for the last 2 years. The chairman from Zealand, let me state 3 different aspects that I observed. There was quite an emotional outburst when there was some involvement of a satanic person that was going to do an invocation this past year. The commissioner from Zealand had to be separated from that person because of his intervention. The second thing is my concern was that Commissioner Bonema has had a history of intimidating other commissioners in interactions with county employees. The third area was that oftentimes there was information that was talked about in closed sessions that somehow or other was leaked to local media personnel almost on a routine basis. In the Bible, on the Sermon on the Mount, in Matthew 7, Jesus advised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
And Lori Burks, Georgetown Township. Wanted to reiterate a few things that I had mentioned earlier. I think it's really important that evaluation is made based on character, qualifications for the position if you proceed to install someone in a position without addressing those things, you should be held accountable by the community. Community knew that that had happened in the background of the individual you have chosen. There would be a backlash, should be a backlash. And as a CPA, I've worked in public accounting for 14 years. I've performed many, many financial statement audits. And one of the jobs of a CPA in performing a financial statement audit is to assess potential fraud risk. I would feel uncomfortable knowing that the person that's over this area, financial area, has potentially had some shady business dealings. And I think that should at least be looked into and addressed publicly, since this information is public's being made aware of the information regarding some of the business transactions. So I would appreciate, as a member of the community, and I think the community at large would appreciate some due diligence regarding the character of the individual that you're looking at for finance chair, that you apparently already appointed. And I haven't been to a whole lot of these meetings, but the meetings I have been to, I have not been impressed with the self-control and behavior, where it was obvious that there were some things discussed in a closed session that were confidential, that was brought out into the open and shared with the entire community at a board meeting. Is that a trademark of someone who's trustworthy? If the individual can't be trustworthy in that matter, how can they be trustworthy over the financial matters of the entire county? So that's kind of on you, whether you choose to retain this individual in this position. I'm asking that you consider doing your own research on this, because the information is out there and many people know about it and could bring it forth to help you evaluate, and then changing your decision on that after reviewing the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burks.
Hi, Sarah Westice, Georgetown Township. Respectfully, Jacob's resume resembles Gary Rosemus. Both are missing education, experience, and especially outcomes. What have they accomplished that is measurable during the decades they have been employed? Review the two recent candidates for Ottawa County Administrator and compare. Ottawa County government is at a size and complexity that requires career professionals in key decision-making positions. Ottawa County can no longer expect and accept the old guard as their ruling class. Our children and the future of the county deserve more. The jobs attract top talent. Let's hire top talent. Oh, and bird flu does not spread human to human. Unless you're sleeping with your chickens in their coop, you won't get bird flu. Fact.
Thank you, Ms. Westice.
Kayla Detloff, Holland Township. I'm just kind of interested by the hyperbole around the selection of the chair of this committee. You're not the treasurer, as far as I know. You don't make ultimate financial decisions for the county. As far as I know, it's a board. I think you all vote, as far as I know. I'm also wondering how many people who are complaining about alleged behavior and other actions also just voted for a convicted felon for president.
All right, thank you, Ms. Detloff. Anybody else wish to speak this morning? And I believe we are all set, so we are going to move forward with approving the agenda. I think she's already been up once this morning.
Yeah, that was
was a
playing
different-
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Ms. Greenlee, go ahead. Yeah.
Our advice to identify people by their actions and their outcomes, not just their words. By their fruits, you will know. By their fruits, you will know them. There were a lot of fruits that we witnessed, and meeting after meeting, of immaturity, unprofessionalism, outbursts, temper tantrums, narcissism, and from research looking at documentation from past history, which some people haven't bothered to look at, coming from Texas, there's evidence that there's potential Ponzi schemes and a lot of financial challenges that took place that we would need to question and investigate. And by having somebody that's not vetted about those things in the financial world tells me we have not done our due diligence.
Thank you, Ms. Greenlee. I believe we've reached the end of public comment. There seems to be a lot of confusion out there on this topic of my past. And, I think I'm just going to spend a minute, if you'll grant me just that, to respond to that for in a very simple term. I have responded to these issues before in the past, both publicly and privately when people have asked. There are two situations that you are all referring to, this certain group of people is referring to. One, and they're both from 15 years ago. Neither of them involved me in any kind of criminal act. So just two things real quick. I have maintained financial licenses for the last, I think I'm at 27 years now. So had I done anything incorrect, I would lose my licenses. So these accusations can't be true because of that. First of all, there was a lawsuit that involved my name along with many, many others. I was an insurance agent. I was named in the suit. I was found not to do anything wrong inside the suit. The suit never went anywhere. But there is information online about the accusations being made, but there was no negative outcome or anything that ever came of it that was related to me making any kind of mistake towards a client or misrepresenting any information. So that's that one. The second one that seems to be conflated a lot was actually against my father, which is a very difficult situation. My father took a wrong turn in life after we'd separated business, and through that, he abused a lot of people's finances, and he was convicted of 7 counts of fraud. Now, my father taught me a lot of good things. He taught me to tell the truth. Through that, when this happened, and the Attorney General for the state of Texas asked me what I knew about it, because I was close to my dad at the time, I stood with his victims. It cost my relationship with my dad. My brother and I both believe that my dad probably got off a little too easy. He recently came out publicly and said that he believes my dad should be in jail, maybe. I don't know. It's for the law. However, those accusations, I believe, were true against my dad. However, they did not include me. So I tried to not dig this back up, but if you guys want to know the honest background of that, that's the background. And, I wish it didn't happen, but all of us are called to go through life with a certain amount of burden, and that's part of my history. And I hope that we can reconcile one day with my dad. I'm grateful that I still have a solid relationship with my dad's, both my dad's parents stood with me, my brother, aunts and uncles all stood with me and called out the wrongdoings of my father. But the Lord knows about it. Spent many hours on my knees praying for him, and there might be a time of reconciliation in the future. But I would appreciate going forward if you don't conflate my name with the wrongdoings of my father. I know that there's some, interest in my my endorsement from the state attorney general, the attorney general for the state of Texas, Ken Paxton. Ken walked through this whole situation with me very closely. Glad to provide any documentation that you would need. Like I said, I'm all about promoting transparency. I don't think I've ever had anything worse than, say, a speeding ticket in my life. So got an 800+ credit score, no judgments, no liens, none of the stuff that you maybe heard spun out there in public. So I care very deeply about our tax dollars, how they're being spent. I want to ask deep questions, make sure that we give proper process to these decisions that impact all of us. But didn't know I was going to need to respond to all this morning, but I want to be sensitive to this because this board has trusted me, this chair has trusted me with this role, and I don't take it lightly. I take it with a lot of respect and responsibility. So with that, let's move forward with the approval of the agenda. We do need to make a couple of adjustments. As you know, this is our first meeting, so a couple things were added that we didn't have a chance to give proper oversight to. So one of the items on the agenda that we need to review a little bit deeper so that we can get it exactly where we need it is item number 5. It is the wage study with Baker Tilly, an outstanding organization that we desire to work with. We just need to work with the scope of work a little bit more. Spoken with the administrator and representative from HR that if we delay this just 1 month, just to be able to put a little more structure inside of it that we're looking for, that's not going to be an issue. So I'd like to make a motion to remove number 5 from today's agenda.
Support.
I'll second that.
All right, with support and a second, is there any discussion? With not hearing any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving forward, I think we need to make a motion here to add a couple of items from our prior meeting from Planning and Policy, and I'll look to Commissioner Moss to do that.
Yep, just a motion to amend the agenda to include the 4 position requests that were, that we have in front of us.
Great. So I will add them to the agenda. Well, is there support?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead. Jordan got it.
Discussion? Any discussion? All right. I think we can just add it as items 7, 8, 9, and 10 to the agenda. So we will move forward with that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, well, let's move to the consent resolution to approve the minutes from the December 3, 2024 Finance and Administration meeting.
So moved.
Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Let's get right to our action request. First item up is the election of the committee vice chair. I'd like to open the floor for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Doug Zylstra. Second.
All right, one nomination for Zylstra. Any other nominations? Commissioner Rhodey.
Yes, I would like to nominate Commissioner Moss.
All right, Commissioner Moss. Any others? All right, not hearing any more. If you would call the roll, Ms. Rachel.
Maybe comment.
Oh, we have a comment.
I'm guessing somebody might.
Sure. Would you
Yes.
like to,
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yeah, so I am nominating Commissioner Moss due to his thorough understanding of the inner workings of county finances and our county departments, as well as his commitment to fiscal responsibility, limited government, and serving the needs of the people well. I think Joe has really dug in over the last 2 years and has a very thorough understanding.
And I guess I'll talk about my favorite person out here, Doug Zylstra, right now. Doug has, the reason I nominated him, twofold. One, of the commissioners sitting around this table, aside from Phil Kyers, Doug has the greatest amount of experience of any one of us on this commission. I think that's very important. Secondly, Doug has a background in finance. I had to ask him, I knew he graduated with a master's in finance. Unfortunately, it is from the Michigan State University. However,
Did my undergraduate U of M.
oh, good.
If
All right,
that
good.
matters at all, Josh.
I was afraid I might regret the nomination, but that's great. No, and I think having a background in finance is very important. So that's why I nominated Doug Zylstra.
All right, any other discussion? Let's go to the vote.
Mr. Kyers,
Doug Zylstra.
Mr. Moss,
Moss.
Mr. Barry,
Commissioner Zylstra.
Mr. Teeples,
Zylstra.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Moss.
Mr. Zylstra,
Zylstra.
Mrs. Winsel,
Joe Moss.
Mrs. Medema,
Joe Moss.
Mr. Juritzma,
Doug Zylstra.
Mr. Bruger,
Zylstra.
Mr. Bonema.
Zylstra.
7 votes for Zylstra.
Wonderful. Well,
Change seats, man.
congratulations.
You gotta do it.
Okay.
It's moving on your side, though. Okay.
I'm,
Congrats. Congrats.
Okay. I appreciate being able to work with Doug. He's been a public servant for a long time and does bring a lot of experience to the role. And I hope that this is a good signal to see how we can work cross party lines. I think that's always a positive because this actually might be a first for Ottawa County to have someone from the other party in a leadership position. So I just want to congratulate you and tell you that you're a credit to your party, and not that we need to talk about party, but I appreciate your voice. And
I appreciate that. Thank you for all your votes. I will try to live up to my party as well as my MSU finance degree. So
good deal. Well, let's move forward to number 2, the statement of review. The suggested motion is to approve the statement of review. Do I have
So moved.
support? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go to the accounts payable for
Quick question.
November 18, 2024 through,
Point of information, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if we need to do a roll call vote on that one.
because it has money
I
in
think we
it.
do on anything
Yeah.
on finance,
I
don't we?
think
Joe?
we do. Yeah.
Rachel, would you call the roll?
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
yes.
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mrs. Winsel,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that catch, Commissioner Moss.
Mhm.
Accounts payable for November 18, 2024 through December 20, 2024. The suggested motion is to approve the general claims in the amount of $20,259,740.82 as presented by the summary report for November 18, 2024 through December 20, 2024.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Sanchez, would you call the roll?
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mrs. Winsel,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on to number 4, the Interlocal Prosecution Agreement. The suggested motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners the Interlocal Prosecution Agreement between Ottawa County and Allegan County.
So moved.
Or any discussion?
Doug.
Maybe I should sit next to you.
Mhm.
Sorry. Do we have Karen here at all or no?
Yeah, Karen is,
Oh, there you are, behind Rachel.
Karen, would you call?
So, Karen, I just see the 15,000. Are we covering our cost here or are we not covering our costs?
My understanding is that we are covering our costs and
Okay.
does include.
So what is the 15,000 then? In the general fund? General fund cost is 15,000. Is that just kind of our upfront cost and then we get reimbursed for that?
Correct.
That's not in that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then Karen, before you run off, I noticed that the agreement actually has Chairman Moss's name at the bottom of it. Do we just need to make an adjustment to Chairman Teeples? Sure. Okay, so we'll make that adjustment.
No, it don't make a difference.
And then did we find out who, it said that it was put forward by the proxy administrator?
I'm sorry, I didn't find that. I didn't. know.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it was just how it goes through on base.
okay.
It went through the on base workflow. I'm.
It should say Administrator Rosema going forward. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know if that makes a difference, Jacob. I think
Yeah.
the contract's all the same, just that next year it will just say who's on then.
sure.
It was just a timing,
Yeah.
a timing thing.
Timing issue. Is it, was this an act by Ben Wetmore or was this?
I can't speak on that.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Sure. I believe it just came from the prosecuting attorney originally.
Yeah, I mean, comes from their office, the prosecuting office, but it does go through the administrator's queue too.
Yeah, I just said
On
under the recommended by, instead of having a name there, it said proxy administrator. It's just unusual. So just
Mhm.
looking at the details.
Also, if you're gonna change names, I would suggest putting Sarah's name on the bottom as well.
She might appreciate that.
Can you spell it?
January 1.
I know it starts with an M.
Well played there, Commissioner Teeples. Well played.
I'm sure she'll fix that. There you go.
All right. Well, Ms. Sanchez, if there's no more, would you call the roll?
Mr. Kyers?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mrs. Medema?
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel?
Yes.
Mr. Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra?
Yes.
Mr. Bruger?
Yes.
Mr. Teeples?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey?
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Bonema?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Right, moving on to number 6 on the action request. The FY 2025 budget adjustments. The suggested motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners the FY 2025 budget adjustments per the attached schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, Allison's got her hand up.
Oh, thank you, Allison.
I would just like some discussion on line item 03-747 and 03774. I would like to understand a little bit more about the emergency preparedness amendment, as well as specifically what services we are obtaining with that $50,000 addition for family planning services.
Looks like we have Ms. Hambley to address that.
There are additional funds for, I'll do the emergency planning one first. 747. So some additional funding from the state, and where that's being allocated to is some operating supplies to do some exercises. There are to do 2 exercises in 20. Service contract for articulate software. Membership for the emergency preparedness manager. Which is the public health. Conferences and training fees. 774. I think if you remember last year, there was an extra amount of funding provided as well for hitting the number of patients that they would like us to hit as part of that contract. I think it was right around there. It might have been around 60 last year. This year hold on, let me get to that detail, how that is allocated. There are some costs for providing anesthesia during placement for IUDs. Yes.
I don't think it's her. I think it's the mic, but.
Oh, it's so close.
Could try unplugging
Better.
that.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you almost got.
Like, I don't want to touch it, but.
Everybody's sick. Don't worry about it.
So for the family planning, it is, there is some money allocated to provide anesthesia during IUD placement, some contraceptive supplies,
And then there's also a large portion that goes to our electronic health record software costs for a lab interface. Like we have to, every time you have to adjust anything that they charge you for creating that module. And then also there is quite a bit, $10,000 of it is allocated to buy some equipment so that we can do rapid testing of samples in-house. Right now, every sample that we do gets sent out to a different lab. And there are some rapid testing equipment in order to get results right there in the office. So that's being allocated.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, Ms. Sanchez, call the roll.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Now we're going to move on to the position requests from the Department of Public Health. I think have Addie start coming back this way. And a request that was made in the planning and policy meeting was that your packet that you gave to us in the prior meeting be added into the packet for this meeting so that the public can follow along what we're looking at. But yes, let me start with the suggested motion, which is to approve the request from OCDPH to increase the hours of the dental assistant position from a 0.08 FTE to a 1.0 FTE at a cost of $20,419, funded by the COA funding from the state of Michigan.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
I've got one. Does the COA funding run out?
No, so the ELPHS, which is Essential Local Public Health Service funding, is pretty set in stone. And so this was a new law that was passed to go into effect this year. And with it, they allocated funding for this new mandate as part of our Essential Local Public Health Services. So, which is pretty set for us to receive.
So you're telling me Lansing had a mandate and they funded it at the same time?
Come on. You bump your head?
Okay,
Pretty exciting.
stuff. Thank you.
Commissioner Moss.
Could you remind us of the grade levels that the mandate is for? I couldn't remember.
Just kindergarten.
Kindergarten,
And
okay.
then there are some that if somebody like transfers or is a new student, like first or second grader and hasn't had it, that qualify too.
Thanks.
See no more discussion. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Super. All right, moving on to number 8. The suggested motion is to approve the request from the OCDPH to create a 1.0 FTE hearing and vision technician position at a cost of $83,244, funded by the ELPHS funding from the state of Michigan.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion.
I'm going to have the same kind of question for each one, so go right ahead and
Yep, same, it's
Funding.
the same bucket. And this was more of a correction. So hearing and vision is a little unique in that it comes from the Department of Education budget, whereas our others are flowing through to us from MDHHS. This is housed in the Department of Education. So anytime our ELPHS as a whole was increased by the state, it only was applying to MDHHS. And so our hearing and vision funding hadn't changed since the 90s. And that was a correction that they made during this last budget cycle in the Department of Ed budget. But same sort of funding that's ongoing.
So with this being in education, just remembering back to my years at Ferry Elementary School in Grand Haven, And we did have a hearing specialist come into the school to do hearing testing for us. Is this the same
Yes,
type of
that's
thing that would,
this.
okay, okay. Cool.
So you said this is ongoing funding. Do you expect that there's no sunset in state law for this funding?
No.
You're expecting this money to come in indefinitely?
Yes, and I would expect that we probably won't see it change again before I retire, but they won't take this back, but I wouldn't anticipate that it took a long time for them to. I wouldn't anticipate an increase anytime in the future, but they won't take it back.
Just a quick question.
Mhm.
How was the 1.0 FTE determined? How was the hours needed?
Some of it is looking at our cost, like, or the caseload of students, and then the growth level of the county, but then also somewhat of the amount that we get. We do look at that. But with these positions, it's hard to have part-time because of the schedule that they keep and the training and certifications that they have to do the hearing and vision screening. And so between the certification, like they're like a subset of a medical position. People to fill that role. And it's even more challenging if it's not full-time or benefited. But if we look at the overall growth of the county and then the growth of the numbers on that chart that is in the packet, it's that our current providers can't keep up with the number of students that we have.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Sounds like we're ready to vote. Ms. Sanchez?
Mr. Juritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mrs. Winsel, Yes. Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples.
Yes.
Mr. Bruker,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on to number 9, the hearing and vision clerk, increase in FTE from 0.5 to 0.8. The suggested motion is to approve the request from the OCDPH to increase the hours of the hearing and vision clerk position from a 0.5 FTE to a 0.8 FTE at a cost of $24,568, funded by the ELPHS funding from the state of Michigan.
So move. Support.
Thank you for that. Discussion.
Josh?
Nope, I read ELPHS funding and I'm done. It's all good.
Groundhog
Same
Day.
bucket,
Yeah.
like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Question on that, so adding those two together, it looks like there should be about $15,000. That's just bar napkin math. Where does that go? Does that just go into your general
So
fund?
currently, like anytime we do the budget, our indirect costs for like public health admin and then county admin, that everything that kind of goes into that indirect. So HR, fiscal, legal, all of that is already allocated in our budget. And with these, this gets redistributed. So any funding that isn't used for the salary and fringe of the position, it can offset that. So it would actually reduce our general fund draw from the county by that 15,000.
Excellent.
Question.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, what, I understand this is a clerk, but what kinds of things does this clerk do?
Do a lot of and I'm not going to be super expert. So they do the scheduling, help do the scheduling. They help do scheduling referral follow-up. Eligibility screening for students that may qualify and aren't signed up. So a lot of the support kind of paperwork behind the scenes for what the hearing vision techs, because ultimately we'd like them to have most of their time being doing using their certification and skills to do the screenings, and then have the clerk do all of that. So part of this is to hopefully take a look at maybe some of the duties our hearing and vision screening techs may be doing that this right now. I think there are some duties that are hearing. But a lot of the coordination and
Okay, so there's one thing that falls under hearing and vision that I've heard feedback from parents on. So I think it would probably fall under this person. And that is, if a child is flagged for having difficulties from this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that a letter is then sent out to parents, asking them, telling them what happened, that their child could use some help. But then asking them and kind of implying that it's necessary for the family to follow up and provide information about how they have medically followed up on the situation, like to provide verification, of a doctor's visit or whatever. And parents have perceived that as, infringing on their privacy. And just that there's an implication of government, that the government's going to step in if they don't comply with providing you with their child's private medical information. And so I don't know how much this has been talked about, that if we've talked about that or not, but I just am putting it on your radar because I do think it is a government overstep, and that the government doesn't have the right to require, families' private doctor information. So just pointing out that if that is still occurring under this clerk, that not doing that might help with less work for that clerk. So, I'm supportive of this position, but just putting that on your radar to maybe look into that.
yeah, I will double check if they are asking for specific. I know we do follow up to verify that the referral, if there's an issue perhaps with hearing or vision, that there was a referral and care was sought in some way, or if they need assistance with that referral. I'm not sure if they're looking, and this is, I'm not sure, I'll have to follow up, if they're looking for confirmation, because we do want to confirm with the parent, like, did you receive this? Have you, seen follow-up care? I don't believe that they're requesting part to come back to us so much as that the referral is followed up on, but I will check.
Okay, thank you.
Good discussion. Anybody else? Then I'll go to the clerk to call the roll.
Mrs. Winsel, Yes. Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Ma, Mr. Drutzma,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. The final action item of the day is number 10, and it's the substance use disorder educator. The suggested motion is to approve the request from the OCDPH to create a 0.6 FTE substance abuse and disorder educator position at a cost of $62,607, funded by the LRE Substance Use Disorder Block Grant.
So moved.
Hearing support, I'll open it up for discussion. Now, one question I had was, could you remind us what LRE?
Yeah, Dr. Bashir's mentioned it, the Lakeshore Regional entity.
Lakeshore Regional, thank you.
So they provide the funding to CMH, and then we have kind of a little pocket of programming as well. This is, to answer the question, Commissioner Ruger, it's tied to the grant. So the grant comes through every year through the budget process, and then the position gets, like, as it says, like, reinstated. So it's tied to the grant. So if grant funding doesn't come through, then
So because we're tying this motion to the grant, if the grant disappears.
yes,
The
and the
position
grant
does.
was already approved, and
Thanks for anticipating that.
Commissioner Miedema.
Addie, do you mind walking us through just a little bit of your understanding of the programs mentioned? Prime for Life program, the Prevention Coalition, Heart Safe Initiative, and the Cannabis Reduction and Prevention Coalition. Not, I don't need a into the weeds, just a broad overview.
Yeah, so Prime for Life, I wish I had somebody program to speak to it. They are providing education to students that are, so if schools in Ottawa County identify a child with like behavioral or like vaping in the bathroom, instead of suspending them, they can require them to go through the coursework for Prime for Life. And so talking about like they do the dangers of choices and things like that. And as opposed to being suspended from class, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I can provide like a report for how many students or how many schools utilize that. The Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition is some of the funding is, or some of this person's time is spent on that coalition. It's multiple different community agencies and groups, including like CMH sits on there, so that we're all talking about what actions each different agency is taking and where the holes or gaps might be. And let's see, Heart Safe Initiative. There is an initiative for teaching how to use the IEDs and the how to do CPR without, like the new method of CPR without the breaths, to get that out. Usually we'll have like a small pocket of that to try and help schools to have those programs and to have those. They have like a bigger, broader initiative to get out in the community and provide that education and training. The Cannabis Reduction and Prevention Coalition, same sort of work as the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. It's a multiple different groups this person would participate with to try and identify how best to prevent like they did in the past. I don't know if you remember the bags, the lock bags, I think were part of this at one point. So they worked with colleges even, because colleges like to use them for students that had like ADHD meds or other meds, so that they could, you know, lock them in their room. So there was some education outreach with the universities specifically for that usage. But the Cannabis Reduction and Prevention Coalition would do work at, to prevent, you know, like kids getting their hands on like gummies and things like that.
How does the, maybe I'm not connecting the dots. How does the Heart Safe Initiative relate to this particular educator?
Trying to think how they did that. Hold on. Yeah, so they're partly doing it for mainly related to the marketing outreach materials education with the schools. So it's, I guess I have to look and see how exactly it's tied in and how it's approved in the grant. But I know that they're kind of doing that along with the other classes, the Prime for Life. Yeah, I'll find out for you. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Sorry, I feel like I'm close. Oh, wait.
Oh, we hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much better.
I was like, I felt like I was close.
Wow.
Was,
I'm like,
was the public unable to hear this last 20 minutes? They weren't hearing it. Okay. Sorry to the public.
Repeat everything you've said.
Yeah, let's just start over. We'll recreate the last half hour. Yeah. Any more discussion on this item? And seeing none, I'll go to the clerk for the roll.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra.
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Jurisma,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great. That concludes our action items. There are no discussion items today, so that brings us up to committee reports. And we have our treasurer, Cheryl Clark, to give us a month-end report. Welcome, Cheryl.
You. Actually, you have 2 month-end reports in your packet. Thank you for moving this finance committee back a week because now it's allowing me to provide more up-to-date financial information. So I would like to just kind of go through what I submit in the report, and I will use November's report first. You'll see I have 4 graphs. The first one.
Turn down the microphone just a little bit.
Sorry.
We went from not being able to hear at all to,
Too loud.
it's not your fault, Cheryl.
Thanks. Sorry. Okay, so the first graph is the open investments. It's a pie chart. So this gives you an idea of all of the open investments that we have at the end of November. Tells you how much we have in each type of investment. So the agencies, money market, municipal bonds, mutual fund money market, pooled government funds, treasury bills, treasury notes, and certificate of deposits. The second one is our historical comparison by month, and that's this line graph here. One thing that I will point out, I want to wait till December to point out some stuff on this one, but you can see it goes back to 2021, so you can see where we were in 2021 all the way through the current month. The next one is the investment distribution by maturity. So this is something that I have to use to make sure that I am following the investment policy. One thing you will notice is that we had a lot of cash in November. We were trying to find investments with the rates going down and stuff. So we had some investments that matured and came in cash, and we were holding on to them until we could find some with good rates that we could reinvest the money in. And then you'll see we have quite a few investments in the over 360 days. Then the next one is the general fund monthly interest yield. So this gives you an idea of how we are doing in earning the rates that we are earning. So the first one, you'll see the benchmark is the blue line. That is, I take a 2-year treasury and a 3-month treasury, and I average their rates for the month. And then that's what I come up for the benchmark. And the purple line is the actual 2025. So you can see we are well above the benchmark in what we are earning in our rates. And we are even higher than what we were earning in 2024. The other reports that are provided are the other post-employee benefits, OPEB trust. So, oh, I'm sorry, I'll go back to, you'll just see a bunch of these other, reports like this. They're just included. This is how I come up with the information in my graphs. So, the other post-employee benefits is the OPEB, and our office is tasked with reconciling that every month, making sure that we are falling in line with our targets that we have set up with the other post-employee benefits. Charles Schwab, Cap Trust, they manage this, so they do the investing for it. We just make sure that they are following what we set up. So you'll see in the gray box, it says for portfolio asset allocation parameters. Current, we were at 49.03 for fixed income bonds, 50.92 for equity funds, and 0.05 for sweep account. The target is next to it, so we are below and above the target in some of them. And I spoke with Cap Trust, Charles Schwab, and they make adjustments as they see these. So they are watching this also. The other thing that is included in there is this short-term bond strategies information. We get this from Robinson Capital every month. And if you look at in the corner here, that's where I get the rates for the 3-month Treasury bill and the 2-year Treasury that I used for my average for the benchmark. They provide this information to all of the county treasurers free of charge so that we can stay on top of what rates are looking like, changes that might be coming, things that we need to be aware of that might cause rates to change. So that's just a recap of, or a kind of a breakdown of the different things that I provide. One thing that I do want to go over in the December report was the historical comparison by month. So you can see in November for 2024, we had 160 million that we had invested. For 2025 in November, we had 142 million. In December for 2024, we had 151 million. For 2025, so this is fiscal year 2025, but it's December 24, we had 136 million. I wanted to bring this to your attention because I want you to know that I am investing less money. And I'm investing less money because we have less money. We are spending more money. So some of this money was ARPA funds. Some of it was the Family Justice Center bond money that we used. So that does account for some of the difference in the amount of money that I have to invest. But I wanted to just make you all aware that it is going down. The past 2 months, it has gone down. And so I'm going to keep an eye on that and bring it to your attention. Because I want you to know that if we don't have a whole lot of the money to invest and the rates are dropping, I'm not going to be earning as much in interest as I have in the past. One other thing. So in the December report, I will normally try to provide some other information from other agencies that I get emails from. One of them is Huntington Institutional Investments. So I included that email in there. One thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was they said the futures, currently there's a 51% probability priced for a 25 basis points cut on March 19. Assuming we get a rate cut in March, the market expects another 25 basis point rate cut in October. Let's heads up that rates, they're still looking to cut rates. The other one is a meter public funds. And I like this because they include rates for me, but they also talk about jobs and the public funds and economic outlook and stuff. And one of the other things that they have that I enjoy reading is, did you know, and this is always like little fact things, historically, after 2 consecutive yearly gains of more than 20%, the average annual return for the S&P 500 has been a more modest 6.7%. And according to a new study published by Neuron, human beings think at a rate of about 10 bits per second. And the amount of information they might learn in their lifetime would fit on a thumb drive. I thought that was kind of interesting. So.
Me.
Right. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Moss?
So it sounds like all things being generally equal, we're going to see rate cuts over the next 2 years. And
Yes.
unless there's some national issues, they'll probably continue to go down. So that's kind of a mixed bag because we will earn less as a county, but it also may help home buyers.
Home sales, yes.
And others. Oh, that's going to be
I
interesting.
know my sons are in their late 20s and they are looking for those rates to drop so that they can purchase a home.
Yes.
But yeah, It's hard for those of us who are investing money, but it's nice for those who are purchasing homes.
Might balance out.
Yeah.
Have to hear from Brian a little bit to see what he says.
Mhm.
Any other discussion?
I got one. Cheryl, is there a way, you mentioned, we're spending more, you're earning less because
Yes.
there's less principal in there.
Right.
Is there a way to give us a sense of what the difference is while taking into account some of those one-time hits, such as ARPA, that went in? I guess I'm trying to get at what the core trend is,
Right.
rather than, we've got these one-time pullouts and one-time put-ins.
Yeah. I could work with fiscal services on that, and we could try to come up with
Yeah.
what our spending has been and subtract out that.
Sure, yeah.
Those one-time things,
Because those
yeah.
are, those are one-time things. It's really hard to get a handle on those, but
Right.
we should have a core basis for what we're bringing in, what we're sending out. And the other stuff is icing on the cake if we get it, but
Right.
yeah.
If I can follow up on what Josh is thinking, it's one thing to have, we should be looking for systemic reasons for the loss if they exist. The
Okay.
fact that there may be one-time expenditures or whatever, right, we can control that on the board. But systemically, internally, are the things we don't know exist. So
Right.
I appreciate you guys keep looking at those systemic things and
Mhm.
keep us advised about not overextending ourselves piecemeal
Right.
to go, so.
And just a note on that too, I think that we found when we came to the budget season that the county was really affected by inflation. That just general operating expenses really, really went up last year. So that maybe is still biting us.
Mhm.
Commissioner Medema.
Yep. Appreciate all the dialogue. I'm gonna kind of sidebar into a different thing. So I think last time you were here, we had a variety of resolutions that came from the treasurer's office. I took the time and did just a little bit of digging on the surplus funds resolution.
Yes, I did too.
And it looked like it had been left off the last 2 years, but it had been used historically prior to that. I would just really love any input that you could bring forward maybe to the finance administration as it relates to surplus funds, and just be able to share information so that the public understands a little bit more clearly where we sit with surplus funds.
So everything that I invest is surplus funds. That's all that I invest. I'm taking, we calculate out what our average is every week for payroll, for accounts payable, and then we subtract out those figures every week, and then we invest the rest of the money. So we're planning ahead, and that's the only thing that I invest are surplus funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I did look into those resolutions, and I could not find any emails, and because I started last year in January, I think that what was submitted to the board to review was submitted by the former treasurer, and I'm not sure if she left it off for a reason or what happened, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
I just had a question. We were talking a little bit about interest rates on the
Yes.
decline. Approximately how much money are we talking about from last year did we earn in the form of interest across all accounts?
Well, I don't have that information with me now. I am working on that though, because I'm preparing my annual report. So that will be in the annual report on the amount of money that we have earned in interest.
Can you get in the ballpark? Is it 100,000? Is it 500,000?
No.
No, okay.
Sorry. I work with too many numbers.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
can relate. I would be interested in a follow-up on
Okay,
that.
I will
so,
do that.
Just to get it into context of how much we're talking
Yes.
about.
Should I just email it to the board?
Be fine.
That-
Let's do that.
Okay.
And Mr. Teeples.
As we go forward, Cheryl, and you come to this committee, so you talked about November and December reports. Are we in the future going to be getting like the month before?
Yes.
So we're going to get
So
time.
next month you will receive January's
Great.
report. Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, I know you said something about that. I just want to make sure we clarified that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I just gonna note too that I know that I have found the audit to be extremely helpful, and I think that's coming up kind of soon
Yeah.
too.
Auditors, are they here this week? The auditors? Okay. I know that I'm preparing information for them now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That overview is very
Is
helpful.
that audit of the county or is it insurance authority? Oh, it is. Okay.
Just for the folks at home, the audit will take place in April, is what you
Yes.
said.
It's a state audit is what it is, right?
We hire an auditor,
Oh, that's
auditing
different.
company. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
Third party.
Okay, so yeah, I think we may be talking two different things.
So
Right.
the county has an audit from an independent audit we're
Yeah.
required.
Yeah, okay.
And so they are usually here. We work with Treasury. They audit a lot of areas. They're here in February doing the audit, the financial statements. Those are actually presented to finance in April. The insurance authority also has an audit that is due at the end of January to the state.
And the prior years should be available, if you wanted to see those, so.
All of the prior years are online.
I don't see any more questions for you, Cheryl. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this brings us up to our second opportunity for public comment. You are invited to come forward. Looks like we have reached the end of our meeting at an hour and 10 minutes. Not bad, folks. Got some good business done. I really appreciate the Ottawa County, the plow trucks that are doing the hard work out there. They're just working all night long. So I just want to say a special thank you to those guys and wish you all a safe drive home. We're adjourned.
Maybe you're not